Welcome on the Cosmic Atom. Have you ever felt that something inside of you started moving for no apparent reason? Almost as if a deep, calm voice was reminding you that there is more to life than you have seen thus far. It is more than simply a passing notion or feeling. It's a secret and ancient calling that emanates from inside, awakening at the appropriate moment. This is not at random. It's a sign that you're about to embark on one of life's most important and transformative adventures. Spiritual awakening. This is more than simply a surface knowledge or a movement in views. It is a process that shakes the very heart of your identity, bringing you out of illusions and encouraging you to see reality in a whole new light. Although each awakening is distinct, like an imprint of energy that cannot be replicated. Most searchers will go through certain phases. These phases serve as thresholds, marking the change from the old version of yourself to one that is more true, liberated, and linked to the divine. In this video, we will look at the 5 phases of spiritual awakening together. This is not intended to be a rigid guide, but rather a live tool to help you comprehend where you are on your trip and where you are going, from the early turbulence that shakes your world to the deep inner serenity of a soul that has been routed. Each stage has its own purpose, strength, and mystery. This will not be a mere information dump. It will be an in-depth look at the symbolic and energetic process of metamorphosis that all aware beings undergo. I ask you to listen with an open heart, experience what speaks to you, and, most importantly, remember that you are not alone. If you're seeing this, it's probable that your soul has begun to awaken, and this might be one of the most obvious signals that your transition has already begun. Spiritual awakening is not a new trend in personal development. It's an old procedure that has been documented in holy scriptures, safeguarded in abandoned temples, and handed down verbally in mystical schools for decades. What we now refer to as the phases of awakening were originally known as the soul's initiation steps. In ancient Egypt, priests at the temples of Isis and Osiris directed novices through symbolic death and spiritual rebirth. These were not spectacular ceremonies, but genuine tests of the spirit. The initiate had to endure inner turmoil and ignorance before discovering the light of enlightenment and oneness with the entire. This route was symbolized by 12 gates of metamorphosis. Each one represents a greater degree of awareness. In Hinduism, awakening is often regarded as the process of Kundalini, the serpent-like energy that sits at the base of the spine and rises through the chakras. It stimulates spiritual awareness and extends consciousness, resulting in enlightenment or samadhi. This energetic ascension has its own phases, struggles, and insights. Buddhism also accepts this notion. Siddhartha Gautama went through many inner stages before becoming the Buddha, including abandoning doubt, contending with the ego, attaining enlightenment beneath the body tree, and eventually committing his life to selfless service. His disciples recognized that every genuine spiritual awakening entails rupture, clarity, and change. The mystical books of Gnostic Christianity discuss the knowledge of the heart and the letter of the soul. Awakening is more than just acquiring new views or converting. It is an intentional trip to the inner heavens. When Jesus declared, "The kingdom of God is within you," he was referring to this same kingdom. In the Gospel of Thomas, Christ is represented as an inward divine spark that must be kindled, rather than an external rescuer. Neoplatonists like as Plotinus argued that the soul descends into the corporeal world to study, forget, and then recall its divine identity, a process known as anamnesis or holy memory. This process, step by step, represents the soul's return to its original source, the One. Many shamanic traditions, including those of indigenous cultures, include the notion of waking. Awakening often begins with a spiritual summons, a crisis, or an illness that signals the beginnings of change. Those who heed this call must go through symbolic difficulties, such as fasting, visions, seclusion, and ego death, before being resurrected as healers, guides, or visionaries. These traditions, albeit divided by time and geography, share a deep understanding. Spiritual awakening is not a singular occurrence. It's a voyage. It is not a rapid flash of insight, but rather a profound metamorphosis, sometimes unpleasant, but always holy. This path is divided into phases, cycles, and transitions that take us from darkness to light, confusion to clarity, and from the limited self to the infinite being. Today, in this hyper-connected society, people still seek spiritual satisfaction. Souls continue to awaken. While we no longer bend before old sculptures or meditate in caves, the procedure remains the same. Urged. The 5 phases of awakening we shall discuss next are based on ancient knowledge handed down over millennia. They function as doorways to your inner self, echoes of information that your spirit already knows and is remembering. Spiritual awakening is really about returning to the eternal rather than discovering anything new. It's the process by which the soul, which has been sleeping in the illusion of the material world, awakens to its divine beginnings. While each route is distinct, there are common steps that define this holy journey. Stages that are more than simply abstract concepts, but actual inner doors that open one after the other in accordance with our development. In this first section, we'll look at the first 3 phases of spiritual awakening, which work as crucible for the soul's development. Some of these phases are difficult, while others are illuminating, but each is vital. First, we have the dark night of the soul. This period is typically unpleasant, but it is unavoidable. It is the breaking point, the time when the old self begins to come apart. Everything you believed about your identity, objectives, values, and relationships begins to lose importance. You may feel empty, lost, and detached from everything that formerly brought you solace. Christian mystics, such as San Juan de la Cruz, refer to this phase as the black night of the soul, a period of desolation that paradoxically prepared the soul for light. During this phase, the soul engages in serious self-reflection. While the ego attempts to cling on, something deeper is awakening inside. Existential crises, spiritual uneasiness, feelings of emptiness, lack of purpose, and emotional isolation are common indications of this stage. But this anarchy is not punishment. It is a cleansing fire. The caterpillar starts to disintegrate without realizing it is intended to fly. Second, we enter the inner call. Following the first disintegration, something new starts to emerge. It starts off as a faint spark, yet persists. This is the call, a subtle but powerful feeling that there's something more, something outside the ordinary world. You start doubting everything. Who am I actually? Why am I here? What does all this mean? You're attracted to mystical concepts, old ideologies, and cryptic symbols. There's an almost magnetic drive towards self-awareness. This step corresponds to the initial awakening in many spiritual systems. This is when the soul begins to rediscover its actual nature. You may not yet have complete insight, but you have a strong desire for truth, a feeling that a deeper reality is waiting to be uncovered. At this moment, you intentionally start your search. You study literature you previously neglected and are attracted to techniques like as meditation, yoga, astrology, and even shamanic. Not as trends, but as catalysts to awaken something inside you. Constant synchronicity, vivid symbolic dreams, a need to retreat from superficial situations, and an increasing sensation of connection with something unseen are all common indicators. Third, we feel the expanding of awareness. During this stage, what was previously an intuitive sense transforms into direct experiences. You begin to see reality in new ways. What formerly looked solid becomes flexible, and what appeared to be distinct exposes itself as interwoven. Your awareness grows, and you see that you are more than simply a body or a particular narrative. You are a part of something far larger. The separate self begins to melt into the communal we. You may have times of profound tranquility and harmony with everything, sometimes short yet memorable. Duality starts to disappear, and judgment transforms into compassion, shame into acceptance, and fear into awareness. In many cultures, this period is seen as the birth of the higher self, the time when the soul takes over and starts to guide you from a higher level. Common indicators include increased empathy, energy changes, a feeling of connection with nature, mystical or sublime experiences, and moments of understanding that cannot be explained rationally. These three phases, the fall, the call, and the expansion, make up the first major cycle of waking. They are similar to the first 3 steps a seeker makes while passing the threshold of their inner temple. These phases are not easy, but they are holy because each one lifts a veil, exposes a truth, and takes you closer to your true self. In the next part, we will look at the last 2 steps of the awakening process, those in which you not only awaken, but also begin to live with this new awareness. Until now, the soul has passed through states of grief, yearning, and growth. It has begun to recollect its own identity and has seen the truth behind the illusion. However, the process of spiritual enlightenment does not conclude with a momentary moment of union. What follows is much more holy and challenging, embodying what you've recalled as the light and living completely awake forward. Integration, bringing your awareness into everyday existence. After great discoveries and experiences, it's time to use all you've learned in your daily life. This stage is frequently less spectacular, but more vital than the previous ones. You've had visions, profound realizations, or maybe mystical experiences. However, you must now put all of your knowledge into context. Spiritual integration is the process of incorporating your newfound wisdom into your everyday life. This is where most people suffer. They wish to remain in the joyful condition. True spirituality, however, manifests itself in the simplest of ways. How you deal with turmoil, engage with people, and behave when no one is looking. You begin to purify your life by letting go of things that no longer reflect who you are. Habits, relationships, jobs, and surroundings. Not out of judgment, but rather through insight. It's not about hard sacrifices. It is about mindful refining. You are creating your reality with a new insight you have learned. And with it comes a strong need for authenticity. You no longer want to wear a mask. You desire to live in complete harmony, where your thoughts, emotions, and actions all align. At this stage, spirituality is more than a notion. It's a way of life. This stage is characterized by the quest for inner balance, considerable lifestyle changes, more aligned relationships, a sense of service or purpose, and times of inner stillness. This stage is lengthy and cyclical, like a spiral that intensifies as you move around. It never really ends since there's always more to assimilate, but each layer you connect with helps you feel lighter, freer, and more authentic to yourself. 5th, conscious mastery, being of service to everyone. The ultimate step of waking is not about retreat, seclusion, or perfectionism. It is about being totally present in the world with your feet on the earth and your spirit linked to something greater. It is about being a live link between multiple levels. You are no longer seeking at this moment, not because you know everything, but because you have already located the source of all knowledge inside yourself. You've progressed from a seeker to someone who carries light. This expertise is not based on conceit or ego. It is about active humility. You recognize that everything is evolving, but you are no longer resistant to it. You flow. You serve. You are radiant. You are a guide without imposing your opinions on others. A teacher without pupils. You're like a lighthouse that doesn't need to persuade anybody, but instead shines and alters everything with your existence. At this point, your energy begins to have a natural impact on others. Then you attract people who are prepared for their own development. Your words, silences, and acts become like medication, not because you prepared them, but because you are a conduit for something much bigger. This is the stage for the Bodhisattvas. In Buddhism, the enlightened individual; in Vedanta, and the incarnated Christ in Gnosis. It is not about being disconnected from the world, but about being completely present in it, walking amid others, as if carrying a lit torch. This level is characterized by great inner calm, detachment without coldness, continual inspiration, attraction to seekers, and the capacity to sustain high energy spaces. However, like other levels, this is not the end point. It is not the summit of the mountain, but the beginning of a new cycle. A real master is a student of mystery, always refining their energies, serving in quiet, and recognizing that the road has no finish, only the deepest levels. Through these 5 phases, the soul awakens, purifies, expands, aligns, and eventually becomes who it actually is. There's no going back, no more masks, only the presence of a creature who lives by the utmost truth. Understanding the phases of spiritual awakening is a tremendous revelation, but it only becomes knowledge when applied. Enlightenment does not occur in a secluded temple or on a high mountain. It occurs every day, in traffic, during tough discussions, in the early morning calm, and in the choices we make when no one is looking. During this process, you'll learn how to identify your current stage and how to intentionally incorporate it into your life. Because the road that lies beyond the spiritual awakening is essentially human. First and foremost, if you are experiencing a black night of the soul, recognize that this is a profound cleansing. Do not battle the darkness. Instead, watch and listen to it. Ask it what the most essential thing it has come to show you is. The trick is to let oneself feel without judgment. Take notes about your experiences. Don't fully isolate yourself, but pick who you want to share this journey with. Practice detachment, not rejection, but understanding. Let rid of everything that no longer connects with you. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to rediscover yourself. Remember, you are not falling. You are being replanted. Keep a shadow journal. Write down what hurts, what puzzles you, and what you instinctively sense is occurring. Second, if you're experiencing the inner urge, now is the moment to embrace mystery without seeking all of the solutions. Read, research, and immerse yourself in diverse traditions. But most importantly, begin listening to your inner knowledge. This is the genuine guide. Strengthen your relationship to nature. Pay attention to your body and allow yourself to have experiences that are free of fixed expectations. Try meditation, visualization, deliberate walking, or prayer. Your soul will speak in the manner that you are ready to hear it. Creating an altar for waking is a beneficial practice. You don't need pricey items, just symbols that express your desire to reconnect with the divine. Third, as your awareness expands, You may begin to feel as if you are a part of something much larger. Your emotions grow more nuanced, and your ideas broaden. It's a chance to connect with the invisible world. The important at this point is not to haste. Your intellect will strive to make sense of what is going on, but the soul speaks gently. Pay attention to your words, actions, and choices. Not because you need to be flawless, but because you've realized that everything has its own vitality. Choose from a point of presence. Respect your energies and maintain intentional quiet. Set aside 10 minutes each day to sit in solitude with no expectations and just be present. Simple living helps to build the soul. Fourth, when you integrate what you've learned, actual change occurs. You no longer need to retreat to nature to experience spirituality. You can sustain a high vibration even in a congested metropolis. However, you may be tempted to return to old habits, people, places, or events that attempt to drag you back into your previous self. Do not fight them. Be appreciative for the teachings and choose a different route. This is the moment to create new routines, diets, rest, relationships, and habits, not as responsibilities, but as acts of love for your reborn self. Create a holy practice, whether it's a focused morning or evening ritual in which you meditate, express appreciation, cleanse your energy, and confirm your path. Fifth, if you've reached the level of conscious mastery, you've stopped looking and begun living from your truth. You aren't here to impress others. You are here to shine. The ego continues to erode, and each day is an act of surrender. However, this level requires humility. A real master is still a student, always learning, failing, and polishing their spirit. The labor never stops. It only deepens. Aim to serve without losing yourself, to lead without becoming reliant, to assist without absorbing. This is the delicate balance of keeping your feet on the earth and your spirit in the sky. Practice silent service. Do something for someone every day without expecting to be recognized. True strength develops in the anonymity of the soul. So, how can you know which stage you're in? The solution is found inside your body, emotions, and dreams. There is no finer stage than any other. There is no linear route. Sometimes you might be in numerous phases at once, or go back to an earlier stage to repair an unsolved issue. What matters most is that you identify your current location, honor it, and proceed with honesty. This is not an outer excursion, but rather a deep plunge inside the temple of your soul. After going through the 5 phases of spiritual awakening, you may have realized a fundamental truth. There is no end destination, just ongoing evolution. Awakening is not a goal. It's a way of life, a crucial decision to go with your soul's eyes open, even when the whole world seems to be sleeping. This trip is not linear. It's not about mounting a ladder to perfection, but about traveling in concentric rings to the center of your existence. Again and again, with more honesty, depth, and compassion. Perhaps today you are in the dark. It's the night of the soul, and everything seems to be breaking apart. Or maybe you've just received the call and don't know where to begin. Perhaps you're integrating years of inner effort without seeking labels or acceptance. It does not matter where you are. What's important is that you are pursuing your genuine self. Awakening is not a one-time occurrence. It is a daily choice. Every morning, ask yourself, where do I want to live today? From fear or love, old habits of my own soul. Every time you choose your soul, even in minor ways, you are moving beyond yourself. You are contributing to humanity's evolution. Because when one individual wakes, the light spreads to everyone. This video is not about providing you all of the solutions. It's a reminder that you already have the solutions inside you. Each step you go through is part of a divine plan created by your higher awareness to help you realize who you actually are. So, when you question, fail, or forget, return to this map, not as a rigorous guide, but as a mirror reflecting your best self. Remember, no awakening is too tiny, and no shade is too large. Everything you encounter, when handled with presence, leads you closer to the truth. If this message spoke to you, please subscribe to continue investigating esoteric knowledge and the secrets of the soul. Like this video if something inside you has woken, and share it with people who are ready to recall who they are. For awakening does not happen alone. It takes place in community, via connection and love. And you, traveler of the spirit, what stage are you in? Dear viewers, your support through Super Chat and membership is the only source of income that keeps this channel running. If you want me to continue uploading valuable content without delays and to stay motivated in providing you with the best wisdom, I need your help. Every contribution, big or small, makes a huge difference. Feel free to donate and support Pure Wisdom so we can keep growing together. Your generosity keeps this journey alive. Thank you for being part of this amazing community. If you're enjoying the content on Pure Wisdom and find value in the messages we share, I encourage you to subscribe. Based on the latest analytics, 93.9% of viewers are watching without subscribing. By subscribing, you not only stay updated with new content, but also support the channel's growth, allowing us to continue spreading wisdom for the chosen ones. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an important message. Let's build this community together.